This morning, I will start with a quick chat to suss out what drawing means to you,
and then follow up with some pointers on how you can draw better. So let's talk about what I mean by drawing. So drawing is the act of making marks on any surface with any mark-making material. So if you can write your name, you can draw. Congratulations. Granted, I know that some are not as skilled as others, but that's just what it is. Drawing is a skill. So a skill can be taught or learned. So if you have the desire and the discipline to learn and practice, then you can totally do it. So I refuse to believe that someone cannot draw. However, I do know that it depends on what you define as good. So if you're like, look at this horrible chair that I drew, you can't even tell it's a chair, then sure, it's not a very good chair, and you're probably not very good at drawing. But there's a general consensus that a good drawing happens when it accurately depicts a thing, right? So if that's what your definition of good is, and you want to be good at drawing, then all you gotta do is practice, practice, practice. So, and honestly, with every attempt, that chair would become more chair-like, even by the second try. So drawing is 50% observation. So you must really look at objects in order to draw them. So the best way to start practicing is to copy other drawings. Just straight up recreate what you see. So images out of magazines, cartoons, books, anything that interests you. Start simple. For me personally, as a young kid, I couldn't stop drawing Looney Tunes and Disney characters. I know what you're thinking. Jackie, that's a ton of work. I don't care enough about drawing, so by that logic, I won't be good at drawing because I don't want to practice. Totally fine. It's totally fine. But this talk is still good for you because you can keep these following things in mind when you actually do need to sit down and draw something, like a chair. But before we go to the list, there's one more thing I want to say about drawing. The word drawing gets mixed up with, and at times becomes synonymous with, artwork, which I believe are two different things. I think an artist is someone who conveys their personal experience through their own unique language, and just so happens that some artists use drawing in order to do that. So let's go back to the chair example. Let's say that this is the best you can do. Then I say, own it. If this is what you see, then what else can your brain make? Go on and develop your own unique language. This is your world, and don't tell me that you cannot draw. How did you get in there? Someone's playing a prank on me. That said, the following tips will help you with either path. So the two biggest things I can say, and what were the basis for the idea of this talk, are perspective and depth. So make things that are further away smaller, lighter, less detailed. Things that are closer to you, darker, more detailed, larger. So just think of it in terms of our atmosphere. Ever notice that picture of the landscape you took? Mountains that are furthest away are smaller, lighter. Things that are closer, more detailed, just kind of more in your face. Break things, Elena, the owl thing that you had. Break things into shapes and further refine them from there. Make your thing pop. Make the logo bigger. So identify identify a light source in your drawing. So the light source, the part of the object that's closest to the light source will be the brightest, the lightest. Part that's furthest away, the darkest. Use a value range. So these are the shades that are including and in between your brightest and your darkest spot. So create a value scale and use those values to convey the light. So value scales, they can be huge. Personally, when using markers, I like having at least 3 stops to keep it simple, like light, medium, dark. And I use that same language throughout the drawing. So all the faraway things are the lightest scale, the closest things are the darkest, and all the stuff in the middle is somewhere in between. I love these plant drawings, by the way. Oh, okay. Make it not quite symmetrical. So you always want to look for balance in your drawing. So keep note of your drawing as a whole. Add subtle changes while you go about to kind of keep general elements symmetrical. Keeping things asymmetrical keeps it interesting and helps avoid repetition. And finally, use varied lines. So not all lines are equal, so subtle shifts in the width and darkness of your lines will create a dynamic and visually interesting drawing. So real life doesn't have outlines, so lines are created through contrast, so try creating lines by placing different values next to each other. Finally, drawing is really fun, I promise. If you need any help getting started or some inspiration, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.